Chapter 18 to 19. Izuku smoothed out his shirt in the mirror, his hands shaking with a nervous anticipation. Okay, shirt's clean. Pants are nice and ironed. Hair's an absolute mess, but that's fine. He chuckled at the sheen from the hair product he and Eri used to tame, or attempt to, his hair before it eventually returned and locked into its original mane-like shape. Izuku, your phone's buzzing. Inko called from the living room. Thank you. Izuku replied as he finished adjusting his outfit and left the bathroom. Grabbing his phone from the coffee table, and greeting his mother with a smile, he opened his messaging app and whistled at the large number of unread notifications. I don't think I've ever had more than 4 unopened texts before, and that might have just been Ida struggling with autocorrect. Speaking of which, he clicked on the speedster's contact to double-check for any response. The prior night and that morning, Izuku had sent several messages asking how his friend was doing in the wake of the news of Ingenium's injury breaking to the public. Nothing yet. He also hasn't said anything in the class group chat. And speaking of said group chat, it was currently flooded with lengthy and artfully emoted messages from Hagakure, Ishido, and Kaminari, with the occasional reprimanding from Yaoyorozu or reaction from the others. The reason for such activity: you ready for the party? Need a ride or anything? Inko asked with a warm smile. Izuku shook his head softly. No, the train should be fine. Okay, well, if you missed the last train on the way back, you can call me to come get you, or you can sleep at Katsuki's house. Izuku shuddered at the thought of sleeping in the same room as Bakugo, considering they were dead set on breaking each other's ribs about 24 hours prior. And speaking of that, oh, don't forget your medication. Right. Thanks. Izuku slipped over to the kitchen where he removed 2 small tablets from an orange pill container he had picked up that morning. Swallowing with a quick glug of water, he shivered at the bitter taste and the memory of getting swarmed by people once the pharmacist recognized him as the sports festival runner-up and decided to loudly announce it to the whole world, or at least that store. His mother chuckled at the sour face he made. At the very least, I'm glad you're not enjoying the recovery process. Hopefully you'll remember this the next time you decide to do something like yesterday. I don't know how many more times I can apologize, Mom. Izuku groaned, somewhere between ticked at her nagging but also touched by her well-meaning. You and Eri doing anything while I'm gone? The matriarch's eyes lit up. We're gonna have a ladies' night, isn't that right? I'm gonna braid her hair, and do her nails, and have her try on these cute outfits I found for her. She sweat dropped at the bored expression on both of her children's faces. And we'll make candy apples. Eri threw her arms up. Woo. Inko bemoaned her situation. I know I always wanted a daughter, but this is definitely not what I expected it to be like. Oh, that reminds me. Don't come home too late. You and I need to go grocery shopping tomorrow morning. It has to be in the morning. Someone won't eat anything without apples, so. Nodding with an affectionate smile, Izuku hugged them both before putting his shoes on and walking out, shooting the class chat a quick text to let them know he was leaving his apartment. He wouldn't return the same. 3 hours later. Fucking DKU. Chug like you mean it. Bakugo roared, pounding his fists on the table so hard the other cups shook, their clear contents sloshing violently, threatening to spill their astringent scent on the fine mahogany of the Yaoyorozu manor. The aforementioned Midoriya obliged, tilting his head back a full 180 degrees and allowing the liquid in his cup to flow freely down his throat, and the rest of him. Pulling the empty cup away, he slurred, I did it, before high-fiving nobody and falling down onto the marble. Kirishima, your turn. The redhead turned away from the unconscious Midoriya and thumbs-upped as he began frantically gulping his own drink while Kaminari drunkenly protested to the resident judge, Jiro. See, come on. He didn't even drink a lot of it. And he forgot to do the flippy thingy. The blonde swayed back and forth, his arms flailing loosely, contrary to the sternness of his words. Jiro wagged her finger and blew into her earphone jack like a whistle, which would have made her head ring if not for her copious drinking. How her head would feel in a few hours was anyone's guess, and retorted, Piku's burp disqualified for. She narrowed her eyes in deep thought, or as deep as possible given the circumstances, before bursting into hearty laughter and falling down while Siro spat out his drink to chastise his flip cup partner while Kirishima finished his and promptly began trying to turn the cup over. 1 hour earlier. Mina chuckled maliciously as she held up a white and blue box, her pink cheeks dusted a vivid lilac. Hey guys. We should play the Pocky game. Bakugo instantly stood up and threw his cup to the ground. I got this. Without missing a beat, he walked over to Kirishima, grabbed both sides of his face, and smashed their lips together. As quickly as it began, even quicker than Mina's squeals, Bakugo pulled away and roared, "Merry Christmas fuckers." Victory for Katsuki. He then walked off without missing a beat. Ha! Kirishima muttered, his face redder than his hair. He then touched his lips and pulled his fingers back, eyes widening at the crimson liquid dotting them. I honestly can't say whose blood this is. Mina made a mental note to remember that for the rest of her life before dashing around the party floor Yaoyorozu had set up, pulling random classmates into a circle and laying down an empty bottle in the middle. I'm first. She spun the bottle forcefully and watched with bated breath, and as it slowly came to a stop on none other than Midoriya. Amidst the howls and cheers of 10 mildly tipsy teens, and Bakugo, she hollered, "Ha! Yes, this is perfect. W8 no. What is this game?" Midoriya stuttered, his face redder than his shoes. Shoji held up a tentacle and explained, "You spin the bottle to pick a partner, then you both take either end of a pocky stick in your mouth and alternate taking bites. First one to break away has to drink." Realization dawned on the greenette's face, so we could, KK kiss? Like with a real girl? Or guy, and only if you don't back out. Izuku gulped nervously, but the peering eyes of his peers and their persevering peer pressure refused to enable his awkwardness, as sure. "I've never drank before, though." Mina lined up a pocky stick and wiggled her eyebrows teasingly as she clamped down on one end, waiting patiently for her partner to oblige, which he did, albeit nervously and slowly. She giggled to herself. All according top lawn. 10 minutes earlier. The pinkette approached some lounging classmates. "Hey, do you guys want to help me get Midori wasted?" 20 minutes later. Midoriya pulled away, his blush quickly receding, but not by much after the several drinks he chugged from chickening out. Damn it. How do I keep getting picked? It's totally like, not fair. After Mina demonstrated how easily he would crack, it became almost a mini-game to see who could successfully spin him as their partner. So far Hagakure, Shoji, Kaminari, Tokoyami, and the aforementioned Ishido had victimized him. Hagakure laughed and probably grinned cheekily as she finished the pocky and patted Jiro's shoulder. "Kyoka, you're up." The punk rocker suddenly blushed with realization. "Oh, pass." A pass. Sensing more opportunity for teasing, Mina cackled and forced Jiro's hand onto the bottle and spun, not scientifically possible. The students watched with bated breath as the bottle slowly came to a stop on none other than Kaminari. They erupted into OOO and AAA to tease the duo, which had the opposite effect on the blonde who was violently fist-bumping to himself. "I did it. I got a girl. Years of manga and internet porn have prepared me for this day. I'll just drink." Jiro blushed terribly and chugged her drink without a second thought, tucking her jack behind her ear. Something in Kaminari shattered that moment if the waterfall he subsequently ingested was any indication. Soon enough, and 2 drinks later, it was Midoriya's turn to spin. "Oh okay, got this. Imma gonna, hee." His face ablaze with Asian glow, Izuku spun the bottle so vigorously and sloppily, it danced across the floor before cracking against Yaoyorozu's heels. A slight dusting of crimson dotted the lady of the house's cheeks. Oh my. From behind her, Mineta seethed with violent rage while Kaminari just kept drowning his sorrows. Midoriya hiccuped again before holding up the pocky stick with a narrowed, unfocused look. "Let's do this, Yamaoma. This'll end now. I'm gonna be the symbol of peace tomorrow." He bit down without missing a beat. Tucking her hair behind her ear, she bit down as well while averting his intense gaze. "Oh, I just had to be non-specific with the staff. How could I be so careless as to forget to request non-alcoholic beverages? Especially after yesterday." Character development aside, Midoriya's eyes lit up with uncharacteristic mischief as he took a particularly big bite, reaching the middle of the stick, much to his friend's amusement and hollering. "Yamamoto, you have to match that." Mina cried, her eyes bulging with anticipation. "Is that even allowed?" Jiro whispered to Hagakure, growing more uncomfortable with the game every round. "Hick," was the only response from the invisible girl. Yaoyorozu gulped and slowly began moving forward. "I should go for it. I want to win. I deserve to win." She locked eyes with her partner. "Do I?" She backed away and drank from her cup. Midoriya watched in stunned silence before jumping up and roaring at the top of his lungs. From the next room, Bakugo roared, "Get that shit, Deku." Anti-Inko didn't raise no bitch. Well, that was disappointing. "Ochako, your turn." Mina smiled at the round-faced brunette, whose permablush was enhanced to even greater heights. Nodding with a sleepy grin, she grabbed the bottle and gave it a rough spin. Unfortunately, Midoriya chose that moment to sit back down, causing him to bump into the bottle right as it pointed towards him. "Ma ol nemesisi. You want a revenge? That it?" "Huh," he screeched at the bottle while Uraraka's relaxed expression was replaced with one of pure panic. Mina held up a Pocky stick and wiggled her eyebrows again. "Come on. You're telling me you haven't at least thought about your precious Deku-kun in this way before?" "Wait and no, I don't think of, I'm not sure, I'll just pa dash." Before she could pull a Jiro, however, Midoriya gave another roar and headbutt the bottle, breaking both the glass and his consciousness. "I'll be honest, I saw that ending differently." Shoji deadpanned. "Nothing ever ends." Tokoyami mused, his stern gaze fooling nobody who saw those rosy cheeks, if birds even had cheeks. "Hey guys," Sato said, peering from around the corner, "first, I made cookies in the kitchen." Everyone cheered, save Midoriya. "Second, Bakugo set up flip cup if anybody wants to oof." Bakugo shoved Sato's head down and peered past him. "Oh, Kirishima, icy hot. Pour a drink down Deku's throat and let's get a move on." Todoroki moved from the corner he was hidden in and emptied his cup onto Midoriya's face, despite Kirishima's efforts to coax into his mouth via a waving hand, which actually made things much worse. 3 hours later. Midoriya was little more than a stuttering, swaying mess at this point, perhaps in large part to the King's game they played where every command seemed to be some variant of, and then take a drink. But he had entered a state of pure drunken lucidity and flower cup was his game. "My turn and only 2 cups left. Hee, if only they knew." Sharingan, his eyes sparked to life as he scanned the 2 upturned sake bowls for the ball underneath. But with his quirk, it was no trouble finding it and he instantly upturned the correct cup and laughed. Victor." The room fell silent before most everyone burst into a fit of full-bodied laughter. The greenette waved around in confusion until Todoroki, who strangely refused to show his right side to him, explained, "If you find the ball, you need to drink all the cups that got upturned before." And since everyone was playing. An unknown amount of time later. Midoriya shot up with a start, his breath ragged and his head pounding. Clutching his throbbing skull, he groaned and tried to collect his bearings, which wasn't made any easier by the painfully bright lights around him. "Ugh, what happened? Where is everyone?" His eyes shot open and he took in his surroundings with a gasp. Oh no. Where am I? While the Yaoyorozu manor was certainly opulent beyond belief, he was fairly certain there was no television studio on the property, at least that he could get to, drunk or not. He was on the floor next to a desk and a couch in front of a set of darkened bleachers and an array of cameras and bright stage lights. A talk show? For what? He turned to the desk and squinted, his eyesight still foggy from inebriation. The Author Kun show? Hosted by Author Kun. Izuku scratched his head, trying to pick at his aching brain. Does that name ring a bell? What is Author Kun? That would be me. A booming voice sounded as a darkened figure appeared from behind the adjacent set of curtains and quickly sat down behind the desk, managing to avoid the spotlight entirely despite it being trained on him by, there's nobody here either. No staff or audience. What is this? Izuku asked cautiously, slowly standing up. The darkened figure held out his hands. Well, this is my talk show. And you're the guest of honor. But who are you? And where is this? He stroked his imperceivable chin. I suppose this would be confusing for you. Well, first things first, I'm the author of your story. Call me Author Kun. Though I think I'm older than you, so maybe san is in order, or maybe senpai. It doesn't matter. I hate when people use honorifics in English stories anyways. The author of my what? Author Kun snapped his fingers. Right, you don't know this, but you're actually in a fanfiction. And I'm the writer. And this whole set, he gestured to the set, is the world between yours, the fanfiction, and mine, the real world. Wait, are you saying we're inside the fourth wall? Yes. Izuku stood very still before collapsing onto the couch. Ugh, how much did I drink last night? More than you know, but also less than you think. Depends on your definition of drink. Wait, what does that mean? And what do you mean, fanfiction? Like those stories written about, well, I guess anything really. Author Kun nodded. Yup. Here, I'll show you. He pulled out a clicker remote and pressed a button. In front of them, a projector screen came down, strangely blocking the non-existent audience's view. He pressed another button and a picture of Izuku appeared, wearing a green jumpsuit similar to the redesign he received in the mail a bit ago. This is you from the canon story of My Hero Academia. It says, Boku no Hero Academia, on the bottom. I don't care, it's easier to say, my hero, and I don't like weebu culture. Wait, you're not a weebu? Well, I'm not white, so I think I'm in the clear. I think weebu is a personality more than a characteristic. Fuck off. Izuku rubbed his chin. Also, if he's supposed to be from canon, why do we look so similar? You're not that similar. Actually, I think we seem totally identical. I made some changes. We're the same exact character. I'm working on it, okay? Author Kuan screeched, clicking away from canon Izuku to a buffer image. Literally. It was just a buffer Izuku. Or at it was supposed to be Izuku, the face was strangely dimly lit, much like Author Kuan. The buff Izuku was also tall, and even though he didn't have much of a face, Izuku could tell his counterpart was thought to be very handsome. This is what happens when you change too much. You get this guy. I hate this guy. What's wrong with him? This is Izuku Hayadu. He's nothing like you or canon. He's overpowered, solves every problem nearly effortlessly, and is drowning in pussy. Why is his FA, he's drowning in what? Do you know what fridging is? Izuku shook his head. Sighing, Author Kuan clicked the remote again, revealing a side-by-side image of Kendo. What's that for? Just to illustrate a point. Now, imagine this strong female character. Okay. Now imagine this strong female character is about to be sexually assaulted and/or murdered. Wait, what? No. That's awful. Author Kuan jumped out of his chair, right? That's terrible and totally unnecessary. But thankfully, Izuku Hayadu saves her from that terrible and totally unnecessary fate by, drumroll please, solving the problem effortlessly, emphasizing both how strong he is and how helpless these damsels are. That doesn't sound right. It's not. But imagine all this happens to Kendo. What do you think her response is? A list of multiple choice options appeared on the screen. Is it A. Kendo calls the police. B. Kendo calls a therapist. C. Kendo runs away screaming at the trauma she's suffered. D. All of the above. E. Kendo wants to get Detroit smashed. By your tone, I'm guessing it's dash. It's E. It's always E. Every time they're rescued, every girl just falls in love with him. That isn't how relationships work. Author Kuan suddenly stopped his rage. That reminds me of codependent Izuku, but we'll get there. Suddenly, there was a rumbling from beyond the studio doors. What's that? Izuku tensed. Shit. Author Kuan sighed and pulled out a megaphone. Izuku Hayadu's super popular and tends to attract a very, let's say, toxic group of fans. Just talking about it can excite them. Luckily, I have a deterrent. Author Kuan cleared his throat, and right as the doors burst open, revealing a crawling swarm of fans, he roared, homosexual lemon warning. The masses halted in their tracks until one brave soldier called, what gender? Author Kuan chuckled, guy on guy. The masses retreated faster than they arrived, shrieking in dismay at the terror Author Kuan had wrought. Hee hee, casual homophobia. Ignoring that, why is his face obscured? Sitting back down, Author Kuan mused, probably because half of the time, those authors add on unnecessary traits to Izuku Hayadu's character, typically a very specific song and/or hobby, that makes it clear he's a self-insert character disguised as an Izuku. Sighing, Author Kuan pulled out a flask and took a swig. Izuku looked away from the chaotic good Elseworlds version of him on the screen. You sound really upset. Not gonna lie. This shit is really annoying. Like, way to shit on the source material, especially this source material, by completely changing every aspect of the main character when you clearly just want to write an OC. It sounds kinda fun though. Oh, for sure. I'm subscribed to like 10 of them. Clearing his throat, the author clicked his remote, revealing an Izuku that was holding hands with someone off-screen. This is a similarly annoying version of you in fanfictions. Codependent Izuku. Codependent. This Izuku found love dash. Wait, really? Shut up, you're getting some too, at some point. Anyways, this Izuku found love, and while charming at first, quickly this relationship spirals until neither character is willing to leave the other's side. Like codependent Izuku and his girlfriend, or boyfriend, literally can't do one thing separate from each other. I don't know, that sounds kinda nice. Suddenly, Author Kun had seized Izuku's face in his hands, his eyes finally unobscured revealing wide, terrified brown irises. Trust me, dude. It's not. No relationship where you spend every waking moment together works. I get annoyed if I see them every day, much less at all hours. That sounds like you have your own issues. SSSH. Author Kun put a finger over Izuku's mouth and stroked his hair with the other hand. You starting to sound like my exes. Take a hint then. Moving back to his desk, Author Kun clicked the remote, revealing an Izuku in a vest. That was it. This is villain Izuku. His authors are low-key sadists and have probably recently watched a YouTube video on Bakunin and/or the Marvel movies and think they have a grasp on writing moral conflict. Wait, I'm a villain. But, I've wanted to be a hero my entire life. It's like, my identity. Well, it usually works well enough based on your backstory, but sometimes they go overboard with it and turn you into a sociopath. But usually you're busy giving grandiose speeches about heroism or bullying and/or being balls deep in Himiko Toga. Wait, who? With another click, another Izuku popped up. Except now, he was visibly sobbing in the fetal position. This is depressed Izuku. He lives to suffer. People want to write about me like this? Author Kun shrugged. I'm sure it's cathartic or creative or something. Or maybe people like torturing fictional characters. Either way, I'm too scared to explore more in depth. Wait, why? What do they do to me? Moving on. Another click and another Izuku popped up, this one glowing with a halo over his head. This one is special to me. This is creatively done Izuku. He's you but with a twist or two. You can see how he got to where he is based on the differences between him and canon Izuku, but they're still the same character at the core. He's the best. Author Kun smiled to himself as a tear leaked from his eye. This is all for you, Master Redgrass and Silvertrees. So where do I fall? Izuku scratched his head. If I'm a fanfiction version of canon Izuku, then which version am I? He's taking all this remarkably in stride. Technically, there's a hidden group of Izukus that I admit I might fraternize with. Really? What is it? Reluctantly, Author Kun clicked the remote again, revealing, canon Izuku? Izuku turned to his companion. What do you mean? Sighing, Author Kun pulled out a Sharpie and crossed out the word canon and replaced it with totally original take on the character. No, totally, I swear. He then turned to look at his creation, shame written on his imperceptible visage. Is it from a lack of creativity or dash? Nope, not doing this. See you at the lemon chapter. Can't wait for you to skimp on foreplay and forget to lay a towel down. The what chapter? Izuku shot up with a start, the early morning rays peeking from behind the curtain of Yaoyorozu's parlor. Strangely, it had fallen deathly silent. In fact, it was totally empty, save for one lone figure sulking in the dark. Yaoyorozu? Izuku asked, standing up surprisingly effortlessly for how hungover he thought he'd be. She turned to face him, and he almost recoiled from the desolate expression on her otherwise charming face. Oh. Hello, Midoriya. Sleep well. Her voice was even more monotonous than he thought possible. What happened? Where is everyone? She laughed drearily. Well, 3 hours earlier. Hey, let's play the spin the bottle. Yes. Great idea. You down, Jiro? Not if you're playing. Ooh, this is what I've been waiting for. Mineta cried with ecstasy, only for Azui to slap him across the face with her tongue. You can't play. Huh. Yeah, that sounds fair. Probably for the best. Who invited him? After several moments of paralysis, possibly from his heart stopping, Mineta screamed and shouted, well, you wanna know what's not for the best? 8 hours earlier. Mineta sipped the rice juice that Yaoyorozu had prepared, or likely her servants. It's plain juice, but the chances are that she didn't buy this. If I want a shot at having the wild high school party of my dreams, I'm gonna need to play this smart. Hey Yaoyorozu, this is some great sake. Mineta exclaimed. Huh. The sheltered rich girl panicked for a second before realizing who was talking. Ugh, I know you're depraved, but you can't tell that's just juice? Mineta pretended to sulk away but secretly snickered, his plan forming in wicked detail. 30 minutes later. Mineta approached Todoroki and offered his cup. Cheers to your win. The heterochromic teen looked down and cocked his head. Have we spoken before? This guy's the popular kid? Shaking off his rage, Mineta smiled. Well no, but I figured why waste good alcohol, right? That piqued Todoroki's interest. This is alcoholic? He took the cup and inspected its contents. Is it sake or something? Looks sort of like the stuff from home. Oh, this is too easy. Mineta smiled and nodded innocently. Sure is. Yaoyorozu really sprang for the good stuff. Guess Jiro really collected a ton of money from us, huh? Why don't you go over there and thank them? Guess that would be appropriate. Thank you. Todoroki nodded goodbye and moved towards Yaoyorozu and Jiro. While Mineta couldn't hear what they were saying, the shocked expression on the girls' faces made it all too clear what transpired. And the near-instantaneous swaying and visible slurring was just icing on the cake. And now for the word of mouth to do the rest of the work for me. Pocky game, here I come. Wow. I really forget how clever Mineta can be. Or maybe Todoroki's just gullible. Still, I can't believe we all fell for it. Ha, turns out a bunch of aspiring high schoolers who spent all their time focusing on getting into a prestigious academy might not know what alcohol tastes like. Whoops. She doesn't seem okay, even for the circumstances. So everyone just left after he dropped that on you? She nodded. I don't think any of us could look each other in the eye. Kyoka and Tsuyu did take Mineta somewhere, but I don't know anything besides that. Still, I'm a little amazed you fell for it. That makes one of us. I mean, you always seem so smart and put together. If anyone would have caught on, I thought it would have been you. Yaoyorozu perked up and looked at Midoriya seriously. After a beat, his face heated up. Crap, did that sound rude? Oh god, that was so demeaning. Sorry, I dash. Is that really how I seem? She was looking at him even more seriously, but with a faint sparkle behind her eyes. I mean, yeah. It's only been like a month or so, but you're already probably the smartest person I've ever met. I mean, Kaminari and I would probably be dead if you hadn't come up with that stuff at USJ. Yaoyorozu looked away, but he could see a faint, yet slightly morose smile forming on her face. After yesterday, or I guess 2 days ago now, I don't feel like myself. I mean, I lost so handily. Your match against Tokoyami. Izuku sat down next to her. I didn't get to see it, but I heard he was heavy on offense. And I heard how short it was, but she doesn't need that right now. She shook her head. It's not just that. It's that I couldn't do anything. I was so slow. No, that's not it. It was like I couldn't make a decision and I got caught in my own head. She then turned to him. Not like you though. You managed to improve so quickly and nearly beat Todoroki. And he's so powerful. And then Tokoyami's so efficient. It's like when I see you all, I just feel inadequate. Izuku looked at his bandaged hand and took a deep breath. I think I have the opposite problem. I try to stick to a plan, but when I get backed into a corner, way too often I just default to what's instinctual instead of what's reasonable. And sure, I'm happy I could help Todoroki, but I have to wonder if it would have been better to play it safe and just talk it through. Be nice to not have to worry about damaging my body too. Yaoyorozu tapped her chin before shaking her head. Respectfully, I disagree. Now it was Izuku's turn to look surprised. Long term, yes, it's better to think things through. But heroism, or at least my vision of it, comes down to the moment where we choose whether or not to act. Obviously, you shouldn't throw your body around, but maybe don't count out your instincts just yet. They sat in a comfortable silence for a while until Todoroki appeared from the room over, holding a hand over the right side of his face. Good morning. Wait, Todoroki? You're still here. Yaoyorozu exclaimed with a start. What happened to your face? Hey, I remember he was hiding it last night too. Did something happen? Reluctantly, he dropped his hand, revealing a bright red flush. My scar masks it on the left side, but... Todoroki, the rice juice was just juice. Yaoyorozu deadpanned. I heard. Then why is your face still red? Determination. I'm gonna have my driver take you both home. Yeah, that sounds good. Can he take me to the hospital? 2 hours later. The group chat was quiet except for a single thread. Jiro, so nothing happened last night? Tsuyu, agreed. Sato, sounds good. Deku, I'd prefer that. Kirishima, I had fun. Bakugo, I'll kill you. Zero, kiss. Bakugo has left the chat. Hello. Izuku yawned into his phone, still rubbing the sleep from his bleary eyes. Midoriya. It's Recovery Girl. All Might gave me your number. He instantly stood at attention, any remnant of his rest gone. Why yes ma'am. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, I'm getting a phone call from a pro hero, besides All Might, wow that's really lost its splendor after a year. She cleared her throat across the line, can you bring Eri in again? I was hoping to do some quirk analysis and figure out what happened on Friday. He looked to his side at the young girl slowly stretching herself out on the bed she wasn't in when he fell asleep. Huh, I completely forgot that she healed me with all the stuff that happened after with Todoroki and Ida. When did I start living such an interesting life? Okay, I'll just let my mom know. Excellent. I'll be by your apartment shortly. Theoretically, getting to ride shotgun with a pro hero, especially one as legendary as Recovery Girl, sounded impressive and was certainly preferable to taking the train with the current stormy weather. Theoretically. A wave of silent confusion washed over the class, prompting her to elaborate, this will be the first time you appear in public wearing your costumes. To the average citizen, that means you'll be seen as a hero. While you don't have the responsibilities of one yet, you should have certain elements for practicality's sake. Most notably, your hero names. It was like a bomb went off, the class erupted into cheers and whoops of excitement at the prospect of further legitimizing themselves as proper heroes, in training. Of course, I'll have you read them out loud to the whole class. Just so you have an idea of what public perception to your name will be. It was hard to ignore the traces of sadism on Midnight's face, her smile twitching ever so up. The class unanimously agreed on one thing, she's looking for public humiliation, isn't she? The process was arduous for everyone, save Aizawa who curled up nearly immediately, though some struggled more than others. For the last time, Bakugo, you cannot call yourself anything with murder in it. Midnight pinched her nose, evidently not used to the torture being turned around. Then what am I supposed to say? How about just Lord Explosion? My hearing cut out for a moment there. What did you say? You can also call yourself King Explosion or something along those lines. Nah, it happened again. It's like whenever you open your mouth, I'm filled with so much rage, my hearing cuts out. The R-rated hero's eye twitched maliciously, and she stretched her flail out, fully prepared to beat the boy within an inch of his life. Luckily, Aizawa's danger sense went off and he sprang to action, wrapping Bakugo in the capture weapon and dragging him back to his seat before falling asleep then and there. Sweat dropping, Uraraka approached the podium and presented her name. It's just me and Ida now, and Kaken I guess. I have so many ideas but now that I actually have to decide, I'm drawing a total blank. Midoriya looked at his hero notebook in his bag, recalling the dozens of derivations of All Might that he came up as a child, and last year if he was being honest. But I'm not ready to inherit his mantle just yet. I'm not a hero like him, and maybe I never will be. I can't defile his legacy like that. On the other side of the classroom, Ida gazed at his own blank slate, his mind flashing back to the events of the last few days. 3 days earlier. Ida burst through the doors of Tensei's hospital room, his sobbing mother trying in vain to calm him down. He immediately felt his breath catch as the world around him disappeared, leaving just him and the sight of his brother's shivering, broken form. Ingenium was bandaged from head to toe, especially his arms. Poking through the gauze, Tensei's once shining and robust golden mufflers were cracked, bent, and broken. One eye was swollen shut while the other was glazed over. His breathing was ragged and frail, broken only by the occasional softly whispered word, SS stain. Tenya rushed to his brother's bedside, Tensei. Tensei, look at me. Snap out of it. Tensei. He could feel his mother's arm on his shoulder, gently urging him back, as well here as the doctor speaking to him, but none of that registered with him. The only thing Ida felt in that moment was the soul-crushing realization that Ingenium, his ideal and reason for becoming a hero, was gone. And that made Tenya's blood boil with impossible fury. Present, don't worry Tensei, I'll make things right as a son of the Ida family and the brother of Ingenium. No matter what, I'll return the favor. Strolling to the front of the class gave him the chance to calm himself before presenting his hero name, Ida. Your surname? Are you sure you want to go with that? The class president nodded with a slight smile. This is the hero I want to be. I want to do right by my family. Midnight's face erupted with steam. Oh, how joyous. I just love a family man. Aizawa propped his head off the ground. He's 15. You know what my deal is, she retorted without hesitation, approved. Ida nodded and went back to his seat, oblivious to the gaze fixated on him. Do right by your family, huh? Midnight regained her composure and cleared her throat, ahem. Midoriya, we're just waiting on you. The fuck? I still haven't gone. Bakugo growled. Only one to go. Don't you fucking ignore me. Just. Midoriya. SHYLY shuffling past the Hindu, Midoriya gave a deep breath before revealing his board. I didn't really have an idea of what you wanted to be called until Ida went but if my name should represent the hero that you want to be, then you think this is the only choice. Are you sure, dude? Is that an insult? Kirishima scratched his head, cautiously playing the devil's advocate. Izuku nodded. It started like that, sure, but lately I've been hearing it in a different context a lot more and, well we think they like others to see me the same way. Deku. So you're going to Gunya's agency. Izuku looked up from the printout Aizawa handed him with all of his offers listed in order of rank alongside notes on the agency's locations, specialties, and notable feats. Unfortunately, the list was as thick as a book, which was also impressive considering Aizawa had done that for all the other students within 2 days. No wonder he slept so much during the day. Uraraka nodded passionately, yup. Izuku put his hand on his chin. He specializes in close quarters combat so I guess it matches your kirk but did you not get any offers from a rescue-oriented agency? You would be thought they line up to borrow you for a week considering how useful canceling gravity is. Blushing through the compliment compen, she rubbed her arm. Well that's my goal, but after fighting Kirishima, I realized that I might have a knack for martial arts. Then Bakugo showed me just how much farther I have left to go. The latter snickered proudly from the seat in front, besides, getting stronger can only give me more options as a hero, right? Midoriya felt his heart squeeze. Such passion. Oh hey it is that ugly face you make. I feel like I haven't seen it in a while. Now it was his turn to blush, sorry. I can't help it. She peered over his shoulder to look at his papers, getting close enough to the app in his blues. So what about you? Any agencies you're learning towards? I mean, there are so many that sound amazing. Ranking-wise, it makes sense to stick with Edgeshot. Beyond that, he also has a similar combat style to what I'm building towards. But then if you use that as a metric, maybe you should show us the arms and get better at brute force. That LL also give me the chance to work with Kamui Wood since they team up so often, and that LL afford me a chance to see pros work together up close. Of course, I also want to address my weakness so maybe you should take up Wash's offer. Bakugo nearly spit up. The damn nerd got an offer from Wash? Even Todoroki looked surprised. Wash-sama? Endeavor fears no main bat that hero, his car is him. But backdraft is more local and has a similar focus on mid to long range so that might be more convenient. Additionally, as we made it clear lack presence so a hero like Shishido or his purple Ignis might help me get better at that. Yaoyorozu flashed back to a meeting she had with his purple Ignis through her family connection. For some reason, I have a feeling that won't end well, Anivas, Ovabami sounds promising. And you really need to focus on my appearance more so I can capitalize on the momentum after the sports festival and my new name. Izuku took several deep breaths before redeeming with realization, sorry. I didn't think they get that far. People usually stop me before I finish. Me too. Midnight Groane. Aizawa pulled out a spray bottle with a cat logo on it, I reiterate, they children. While Midnight was made even better, I'm not sorry, Uraraka was in stunned silence. He so focused on being a hero. It's like whenever I think I'm giving it my all, he shows me just how much further I have left to go. Man, that was really cool sounding, Deku. Uraraka beamed and punched his shoulder, which hurt more than he was comfortable admitting. Gunya's definitely the right choice, I'm really happy you're so gung-ho about this. And that he got to help you pick your hero name. Yes. Definitely. Glad you called that. I don't have the heart to tell Harry pick it cause he calls me Dekuni. But Ida, I'm surprised you went with something so basic as your hero name. You're normally so flash. From across the room, Ida gave a small smile as his friends walked over. Well, it felt like the best way to honor my family's legacy. Especially with. The smile faded and his expression darkened. He quickly averted his gaze, but the gesture was the lost on his friends. Because of your brother? Uraraka sighed softly, putting a hand on his shoulder only for him to shrug it off. Ida hesitated before turning around again, the same smile plastered onto his face. Sorry, lost my train of thought there. I suppose you will hear it on the news at some point, but my brother's injuries were pretty serious. He'll be out of commission for a while. The trio was stuck in a vivid silence for a while, even as the lunch bell rang, it unsure as to what to say next. Luckily, the tension breaker of all tension breakers came bursting through the classroom, and opening the door like a normal person. All Might threw open the sliding door so hard that the building must be a shoe. Sorry to disturb studies you during lunch kids, but I need to tell young Midoriya. Right now. Izuku pointed to himself as if he forgot whose successor he was. Indeed. Recovery girl asked me to get you so here and fulfilling my obligation to a colleague. Alright. Gotta get ready. It was like a bomb went off in the class, even though Bakugo barely made an explosion in response. She's here? Why yes. Like a regiment of soldiers, they wolfed down their food in record time before assembling all the components of a solid play date. Aoyama dug up some fairy tales, Kota summoned his animal friends, Yaoyorozu researched the chemical formula for assorted candies, and Aizawa started stuffing Midnight into his sleeping bag. I won't let you corrupt this one. Deku, huh? I like it. It's snappy and easy to remember. Izuku smiled at the praise of his mentor, thanks. It was the only thing I could really think of though, to be honest. Really? I would have thought you had a million ideas in those notebooks of yours. He blushed deeply, WL. All Might raised an eyebrow before he remembered who his student was, right. Fanboy. Got it. They continued walking in a comfortable silence before the larger also remembered his second purpose for pulling the boy. By the way, you got some more offers earlier today. He handed Izuku another sheet with several hero stats on them. Sighing, Izuku accepted the offer list. A couple months ago, I would have been thrilled to be acknowledged by just one hero. But now that I have to make a decision, I sorta wish I had fewer choices. The struggles of popularity. Well, on the bright side, I stole a peek at your list so I can offer some recommendations. Really? What do you think I should do? Well, Edge Shot is in the top 5 for the whole country, so working with him would help prepare you for what you'll be dealing with in the future. Of course, it's never unwise to focus on the smaller, more local heroes who you'll be teaming up with from time to time. In that category, I personally recommend Pancration. But then you could also go against the grain and choose Gran Torino. Sorry, who? All Might meekly looked away, feeling a great deal of nausea at the prospect before him. Why you'd like to, my old homeroom teacher, G Gran TT Torino has, Hiariq, damn it Tashinori, stop shaking. He sent you an offer earlier today. Many things made Izuku Midoriya panic, but perhaps nothing more than seeing his mentor, and the most powerful person on the planet, shiver in complete fear. What the hell? He was my mentor's sworn friend and helped train me after she passed. I told him about you and how I've been working with you and, oh god, he thinks I'm a failure of a mentor. He's going to hurt me again. All Might practically fell into the fetal position and started whispering, no sorry Hikodano, yeah mate, over and over. I should go. Izuku decided to enter the nurse's office, partly because it was only a few more steps, partly because the other students were staring at him and All Might, especially now, and because the more he heard about Gran Torino, the more he wished he hadn't. Deku and I. Ah, my strength returns. Hey, how was it? He patted Eri's head affectionately. I got my horn shaved. Recovery girl chuckled from her desk before holding up a small vial containing a little bit of a yellow-white powder. I use a file to take a sample of her horn. I'm running mass spectrometry on it now to determine its makeup. He lifted his sister into his arms and allowed her to play with his phone. Why? Is there something abnormal about it? The heroine shrugged, no idea. With all the quirks in the world, so many people have horns with unique chemical structures. Ashido in your class, for instance, has horns with a separate function and composition than someone with, let's say, a rhino quirk. Since we already know her quirk factor is concentrated around her forehead, we can narrow its possible mechanism through analysis. So by finding wait there are rhino quirks. Focus. Sorry. So by finding out the structure of the horn, you can maybe narrow down what her quirk could be. She beckoned the siblings to her desk and pulled up 2 pictures of Eri, one from today and the other from her first visit to UA several weeks ago. That's one reason, but also I have a suspicion that her horn is the source of her quirk. See the difference between the pictures. Ooh, I like this game. The grown-ups looked down at the child in surprise. Really? Eri nodded vehemently, we would play this at the, sorry. The child suddenly withdrew and resumed the meek posture from when she met Izuku. Hey, are you okay? He knelt down and patted her head, but she flinched at the touch before shifting away slightly. I'm guessing she's still touchy about the past. Recovery Girl was a consummate professional. However, Eri, I actually bought a treat for you. The fridge in the back has some apple-flavored popsicles if you'd like one. Midoriya and I can continue. Silently, the child nodded and moved towards the back room. Izuku immediately whispered, what was that? I haven't seen her shut down like that in a while. She sighed and leaned back in her chair. She's done that with me a few times, but always when I ask about those scars on her arm or anything about her history. In kids, this behavior is almost always correlated with some types of traumatic stress disorder. Like what soldiers get. Similar, yes. It's exceedingly rare for kids though, and it tends to present differently in these cases, so I don't want to assume hastily. However, she does show a strong connection to her caregivers, you and your mother, while also presenting a simultaneous aversion to painful stimuli, which practically confirms our suspicions of mistreatment. Izuku was somewhere between disgusted, depressed, and pissed, so her guardians before us, they really did abuse her. Nodding solemnly, Recovery Girl explained, that's actually the third reason I've been examining her so thoroughly, to see if anything about her matches any child on record. Not only could we better identify her quirk if we have a family history on record, we could find out what her background is and ID her. I thought All Might already had his friend in the police work to match her to missing persons though. True, we found no matches. Now, we're just trying to determine if she exists at all. What does that mean? Several screens of data appeared on the screen, not dissimilar to the hero registry that Izuku was fretting over before this. When your mother took in Eri, we treated it like a foreign adoption. It made for a quicker process and asked fewer questions. Now that your family has a claim to her, it's important we find out if anyone else does. Beyond identifying her background, we want to make sure nobody can enforce a legal argument for custody. And have her go back to her abusers. Izuku sat down and exhaled deeply. That's a lot to think about. Recovery Girl put a comforting hand on his knee. Don't fret over it though. We have enough evidence to fight any custody battle. It's more about preparing than anything. The really pressing issue is her quirk. Oh right. So what's the difference in that photo from earlier? She pulled the images back up, her horn shrunk. It was true, though a slight change. Eri's horn was visibly a bit shorter than before, but how? Why? I have way too many theories, but the two prominent ones are that her horn is either tied to stress, which raises unneeded connections to Destro, or it represents her ability to use her quirk itself. He paused for a moment of thought, so it's like a pool that she can draw power from. Since her quirk is some kind of healing, her horn shrank because she used her power on me at the festival. Man, if he wasn't so hellbent on being a hero, I'd have him go into research. Right. I think Eri's horn stockpiles power that she can use to power healing, not dissimilar to One for All, though I don't think your power regresses with use. The youthful heroine removed her glasses and smiled. If I'm right, Eri would actually have a much more robust healing quirk than my own. If the timing was different, she might have even been able to save All Might. So if she could control it, she really could heal All Might? Heh. Yup, the kid should be a doctor. I don't know about now. We've had to remove entire organs and healing that would require regeneration, which hasn't been seen in any generation so far. Even if quirks get stronger with our descendants, it would be a hell of a mutation for someone to be able to do that. Granted, though, we already determined her quirk is mutagenic in nature, so I can't rule out that maybe she could help manage his symptoms and buy him more time in muscle form. Izuku jumped up with an excited grin. Then let's get them both in here and now. Recovery Girl angrily waved her cane. Think boy. She can't control it yet, and even then, don't put that on her. He sat back down sheepishly and looked away. Sorry. Your master has a terrible habit of forcing responsibility onto you. Speaking of which, I have your pain medication, and you'd be wise not to inherit that from him. But I do want to live up to his expectations. I want to be his honest-to-God successor. She sighed. You idolize the man too much, though I suppose Sorahiko will beat that out of you soon enough. Izuku cocked his head. Sorahiko. That's All Might's old teacher's real identity, right? Gran Torino. The old doctor smiled at the mention of her old friend. Indeed. A real troublemaker, but a good man. Better hero, too. All Might likely would have died a long time ago if Torino hadn't taught him so well. I guess he followed through on sending you the offer then. He nodded and pulled out the form All Might gave him. Yeah, he sent it earlier today, I guess. But I've never heard of Gran Torino, and I'm the biggest hero fan in the world. Yeah, he only taught for a year at UA for All Might's sake and stuck mostly underground otherwise. But he was sworn friends with All Might's mentor, studied under her mentor for a bit, and made All Might into the symbol of peace. There's probably nobody alive with a greater understanding of one for all. Save for one. The warning bell rang, signaling the end of lunch. Oh, there I go running my big mouth. Why don't you take a popsicle for the road and head back to class with Eri? She held out another pill bottle, the remainder of his prescription. Izuku accepted the medication, stood up and bowed. Thanks for everything, recovery girl. She smiled as he left, sister in hand. Can't argue that at least he's made life at UA more interesting. For all his blithering and reckless abandon, he'll be a fine hero, or at least he will be once Sorahiko beats the stupid out of him. Outside the clinic, Izuku's sweat dropped to see his mentor still curled up and muttering to himself. Is that what I look like? All Might, I think I'm going to Gran Torino's for the internship. That snapped him out of his stupor. Oh really? Excellent. Good for you. I'll remember you fondly. Alright. Anyways, I gotta head back so I'll see you at training later. Bye Mr. Might. Eri waved with her popsicle stick as they walked back to the classroom. Yes. Good talk, young Midoriya. Wait, you didn't get to eat lunch, again. Unacceptable. Hold on, my boy, the bentos are on the way. A week later. In the sunny streets of Hosu, Tenya Ida closely followed his temporary mentor, the normal hero, Manuel, as they patrolled among the smiling citizenry. You know, I was actually really surprised to receive your acceptance, Ida, the affable pro mused. The armored student looked up from his thoughts. Yes, well, I found your agency to be the most ideal choice for me and what I hope to do over this week. Technically true. Manuel stopped and turned to the boy with a small and understanding smile. You mean find the hero killer? That made Ida flinch more visibly than he was comfortable with, which was a lot considering his default state. I don't know what to say. The older of the two placed a hand on his intern's shoulder and patted it. I see a lot of myself in you, Ida. I've been vengeful before and let me tell you, it's not worth it. Moral reasoning aside, you're also still a student and unauthorized to act independently. When he got no response from the boy and gave up trying to determine his emotions through the armor, Manuel turned around and added, just think carefully about what kind of hero you want to be. But that's enough heavy stuff for now. Let's get on with the patrol. Resuming their casual stroll, Ida couldn't help but clench his fists in a flash of rage. It doesn't matter what kind of hero I want to be. Not anymore. Not after what he did. Said, he was actually not far off from the duo, perching atop an obscured water tower in broad daylight, his face scrunched in some twisted smirk. To sit so casually during the noontime, you must be every bit as capable as the reports say. A black swarm of mist appeared behind the hero killer, swirling around and around until it took the general silhouette of a man wearing a bartender's ensemble and a metal neck brace of sorts. That or he's completely detached from reality. Both are highly probable. Stain barely shifted his position, though his eyes darted energetically to the side while his fingers tensed, ready to draw one of his many weapons. I've heard of you. Last I checked, you were even more wanted than me. Kurojiri chuckled dryly, perhaps at one point, but your more recent moves have made you quite the figurehead in the public's eye. A mystery man moving from place to place across the region, crippling and killing heroes left and right? That's certainly more terrifying than a ragtag bunch of lowlifes that got dismantled by a few kids. Sycophant all you want, I didn't call myself the League of Villains like some comic book character. Touché. Twisting his head around, Stain put a hand on one of his knives. But is that why you came here? To join my quest of villainy? With a flick of his thumb, the blade popped out of its sheath. He phrases that like it's a bad thing. Best play it safe. I just want to talk. We can return to my hideout if you'd like. Get you out of the open and discuss things over drinks. Stain tightened his grip on the blade before sighing and resheathing it. Lead the way. As Izuku walked to the address listed for Gran Torino's agency, his thoughts drifted to Ida and the curt goodbye they shared at the train station. He's still so stiff and disingenuous. But I can't get through to him if he won't let me in. Ha, maybe I should fight him. I'm 2 for 2 on that front. He took a quick look at the scars on his hand and the memory of taking a howitzer to the face. Nah, I'm good. Finally, he came to the correct building, if one could call it that. A more appropriate description would be cobbled together hodgepodge of brick and mortar that also survived a nuclear attack but poorly. This guy made All Might the symbol of peace. Hello, this is Izuku Midoriya from UA. I'm here to intern under Gran Torino. Knocking lightly was enough to open the shoddily built door, revealing a small elderly man with a blank expression in oversized yellow spandex sitting in a pool of some red liquid. Tashinori. Excuse me. Izuku moved to close the door before a sudden blast of rock-hard wind kicked him in the chest and sent him flying off of the stoop and onto the street below. Or maybe it was a small leg moving at the speed of sound. His thoughts weren't very conducive at the moment. What? He told me you had enhanced perception and good reflexes. Guess he's mistaken. Go figure. Looking up, ignoring the searing pain in his sternum, Izuku looked at a proudly posed hero, a far cry from the simple old invalid act from earlier, G. Gran Torino? The old man smirked and dusted himself off, the one and only. Now come on, show me what you got, neophyte. Oh make. Okay students. We all know why you're here tonight, so let's just own up to it. Nizu looked to the first troublemaker, Namuri. Do you want to tell us why you're here? The heroine fidgeted uncomfortably, refusing to make eye contact, because I acted inappropriately around the students? Are you asking us or telling us? I acted inappropriately with students. Is that it? I might have also posted some unprofessional images of the students on private social media accounts. And I needlessly dragged out the tournament by forcing some students to participate in unnecessary preliminary matches, thereby placing many of them at a competitive disadvantage for the remainder of the finals. Nizu nodded with a kind smile. Thank you for your candor. Now, what about you, Hizashi? Would you like to admit what you did wrong? The leather-clad hero put his legs on the table and inhaled sharply. Nah. Are you sure? Because I have it on good word, and tape, that you said some pretty unbecoming things as commentator. That wasn't me. Midnight nudged her colleague. Just fess up so we can go. Present Mike pushed her back. Screw you. I did the job I was asked to do. Hizashi, nobody asked you to insult half of the freshmen on international television. Aizawa deadpanned from under Nizu. The principal was perched on his shoulder. I'm sorry, I thought I was supposed to entertain the crowd. Our ratings have never been better. That's because someone posted the video of Endeavor chucking fireballs at the announcer's box. You're welcome. Midnight groaned. God, I can't believe you actually graduated. I can't believe you got rejected by a bunch of repressed teens. Oh, so you're ready to die. Square up bitch, I've been ready. Hold on Oboro. I'm coming. Watching his two oldest friends tear each other apart, Aizawa sighed exasperatedly. Principal, what's the point of this anyways? They're not gonna change. The mouse bear dog's thoughts flashed to a world on fire, chimeric beasts rampaging through the streets, slaughtering not just the men, but the women and children too, like animals. A glorious army of superpowered animals stood in uniform blocks, marching down the streets of the society they reclaimed under the glorious flag of the Fourth Reich while their ivory leader cackled maniacally over the bones of the fallen masters. Justice, Nizu said with a smile. If you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you later, bye bye.